in science? Are we finding out more about the universe that we are researching? Or are we finding out more about the universe that we are researching? And every moment, more is being created.
Welcome to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl, a podcast that illuminates the path to collective healing at the intersection of science and mysticism. This is the Point of Relation. The following episode was recorded during a previous online course with Thomas Hübl. Visit thomashübl.com to learn more about upcoming courses and events.
I want to speak a little bit about different ways of knowing, because especially in our time, it seems like there's a little bit of a two-ness between spirituality, what I call spiritual or inner science and technology and scientific progress. And it seems like that there is sometimes a two. So there are some people that are more in the scientific community, and there are other people that are more in the spiritual community. And recently we see more and more of a confluence, but still in the marketplace and also in many workplaces, people feel that that they need to hide a bit their spiritual practice because it seems like it's not fully acknowledged and fully part of the mainstream workflow scientific age. And I want to speak a bit about different ways of knowing. So experimentation, or creating experiments that we can reproduce and that kind of make certain discoveries or knowledge about life more, make it viable and more objective, and hold it in a kind of a scientific reproductive mindset, so that we can reproduce it, is one way of knowing. And another way of knowing is, like, when we look at the mystical practice, we have basically two, we have more, but let's say two aspects. One is the experiment is the practice. So engaging in and sticking to a certain practice is like the experiment, that if we go deeper with a certain practice, we will discover and uncover at a certain pacing layers of life or layers of reality. If I engage like more superficially with a spiritual practice, so that's what I will uncover. My life will stay more on the superficial level. But if with a deeper meditation or also prayer practice, if we go deeper, we touch deeper layers. But people who practiced deeply can recognize those layers in people that begin to touch them. So it's not just everybody experiences whatever they experience. It's also, there is a verification process, and in traditions, teachers and practitioners, when they meet, can confirm certain states or see that they are not there yet. It's not just arbitrary. So whatever we experience, we experience. The energy of the person displays the state of the meditation. So there's a confirmation. And the second part of the mystical knowing is that presencing, and we said presence is a result of training, practice, and integration. The more we integrate unintegrated life, or fragmented or dissociated life, back into the flow, it becomes learning, maturation, and presence. But presence is the intimacy with life. And so presence is the capacity to read the one book. So when we write books about life, about certain aspects, or about certain times, like there were all different times in the over the course of humanity's experience, and there were books that have been written about the specificity of that time. Then there were books that were relating to the principles of life, more philosophy or sometimes mystical books. So they are true throughout time. So we read the Tao Te Ching 2,000 years ago, and we are still reading it. We are reading the Bible. We read it 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. We are still reading it. So it must have a reason why that didn't disappear over the course of humanity. So there is something in there that is not just describing the wave of its age or time. There's something deeper than the regular time that makes principles accessible. And then presence is also direct knowing. Direct knowing is not just imagination. It can be imagination, that I imagine stuff about you, but attunement is a precise, much more precise way of sensing and knowing. And that's why I want to also do a little bit of a reflection about spirit, because deeper spiritual traumatizations like religious wars or abuse or inquisition or forced conversion or all kinds of historical or contemporary spiritual traumatizations in relation to spirit created a dissociation from it, either an aversion, so that we don't want to have anything to do with it. And we see this that sometimes when we mention the word God, for some people it's hard to, there's almost like an aversion to that word, because I don't think because of the word, it's more because of what is attached to that word, and how often in the name of spirit, also often in education, in the name of spirit or the divine, all kinds of kind of painful education methodologies have been applied, or painful racial traumatization or other traumatization, gender traumatizations happened. So that there's a lot of pain also connected. And so that's something we need to take care of and bring back into our awareness. But the deeper connection to spirit is the deeper connection to the ever-changing revelation of life, so that I can develop relative truth. I find something out that we can relatively qualify and maybe prove or show or reproduce, and it's part of an ever-changing, evolving universe. And the question, of course, is also in science, are we finding out more about the universe that we are researching? Or are we finding out more about the universe that we are researching? And every moment more is being created. So this are a bit two different approaches to reality, and that's why the to more and more, at least if there is a gap, to let these two voices have a dialogue all the time, to be in dialogue, and to combine both, because we want to combine our inner knowing, we want to combine our intuition, our inspiration, our rational knowledge, our scientific understanding, and harvest the whole beauty of intelligence or intelligences that we have available. And sometimes, because of the hurt, we don't trust the inner knowing that has different levels. The inner knowing has levels of attunement, sensing, and feeling and being attuned, intuition, the spontaneous arising of information that already is manifest, inspiration, when the future potential speaks to us, like innovation, and on a deeper level, the knowing in the knowing of stillness. That in the spiritual practice, stillness, true stillness, or emptiness, is actually full of everything. It's empty because everything's there. That's why nothing can be seen. So in deep states of meditation, when we reside or rest as emptiness, that's also supremely intelligent. There is supreme intelligence in what seems like nothing. That's why the whole Tao Te Ching, when Lao Tse speaks about the Tao, it sounds very simple on the one hand, but it's very profound. And the wisdom of the Tao, which describes that the deep ground of being, is there is supreme intelligence. And so, but it's intelligence beyond cause and effect. So it's not creating something from something, it's creating something from nothing. And so in the mystical science, the process of the bowing, the humility and the bowing to something from nothing, even if we don't understand, needs a certain amount of not knowing. So the knowing is being born out of not knowing. And then there is attunement where we read the book of life. What I call the book of life is the one book. It's the information field that we are in all the time. And the congruency, the attunement creates a coherence or congruency with that information, is a constant live streaming of data. And so, in my understanding, trauma creates a disorganization in that information field. And that's why sometimes direct knowing is not easy. That's why we need to go to other modes of knowing. But combining like the scientific research with a more and more open inner state of knowing is actually an amazing combination. Especially also when we talk about technology, when we talk about AI, when we talk about nanotechnology, genetic engineering, like an aligned, connected revelation, I think is very powerful. And so these two voices are actually, at the end of the day, are not two. They are one voice. But what makes them two is trauma. It makes it into like as if they have an argument, which is more true and which is less true. But deeper down, they're unified. They're different qualities of the beauty of life. And so that's why I think spiritual practice can give us access and help us to restore the inner knowing and the inner revelation, and that together with the research and the scientific process is actually an amazing marriage, a very powerful marriage of revelations, and manifesting that revelation as progress, manifesting that revelation as all kinds of innovations in different fields, but in a connected way, in a connected way to the essence of life, like to the divine law, the essence of life. And that makes it really powerful. And I think we see if we look at neuroscience, if we look at quantum mechanics, if we look at epigenetics or other fields, we see where there are deep connection units already, where the dialogue has been deepened, so that we see the effects of meditation and fMRIs, that we see the deep mystical states and the quantum field, or if you see trauma and epigenetics and the intergenerational trauma transmission. So there already, and there are more, there are amazing dialogues that become intimate dialogues, which I think is very important. So we want to see also that, especially when I'm interested in a spiritual practice, that there are deep ways of knowing, different ways of knowing, that's like our spiritual practice gives us access to or enhances, like intuition, inspiration, attunement, and the knowing that is not part of cause and effect. That's important. The mystical science speaks like the divine realm is how from nothing something arises. And deep spiritual practice gives us, or can give us, access to participate in the arising, which means it transcends cause and effect. This was, then this was, then this was, then this was, this made this, made this, made this. Like as if reality is a chain of cause and effect and cause and effect and cause and effect. And so that's why I believe for everybody who does deep work in the world, having a deep practice can be a real support, and not only support, it's kind of a cross-fertilization of realizations, and that's deeply beautiful.
Thanks for listening to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl. Stay connected and get updates about new episodes by visiting our website, pointofrelationpodcast.com, and by subscribing to the Thomas Hübl YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share about us with your community on social media. Thank you. We appreciate your support.